We've been taught everything except how to be human. Welcome to Human School, where remarkable people turn raw, unfiltered experience into practical wisdom. I'm Miles Adcox, and this podcast was born from the belief that you don't graduate from being human. You just get more honest about the lessons. If you're ready to stop performing your life and start participating in it, you're in the right place. This is Human School, where we finally learn what matters most. Sometimes the greatest teachers are those who have learned through pain, courage, and surrender. I've had the privilege of walking alongside today's guest, Jason DeFord, of course known by millions as Jelly Roll, as he turned his wounds into songs, brokenness into bridges, and vulnerability into anthems that heal. From the streets of Antioch, Tennessee to Grammy nominations, and from juvie centers to the Grand Ole Opry, Jelly Roll's journey is real, messy, and a powerful testament to the power of redemption. His songs like Save Me and I Am Not Okay are honest enough to allow millions to admit that they are struggling too. And today, he stands as a fierce advocate whose generosity has transformed lives and offers hope for the vulnerable parts within all of us. I have seen firsthand, from backstage green rooms to prison visits, how Jelly embodies what it means to truly turn your life around, not by forgetting where you came from, but by using that very past to uplift others. Please welcome my friend and one of the most talented creatives, orators, and authentically genuine humans I've ever known, my buddy, Jelly Roll.
Hey, baby, what an introduction, dog. That one felt special. You know what I loved about that? It meant a lot to me because we're friends in real life, and none of my, accolades were on there. Like, I didn't hear a mention of a Grammy or, it was more about the heart of what we do, which means a lot to me now, because it's like early in your career, all you want is accolades. Right. All you want is platinum plaques, all you want is number ones, all you want is, because that's the dream. That's what you're in these rooms fighting for. And then when God blesses you and you get it, you realize that the real blessing is in those things, right? Is in the relationships you have, or going from Juvenile to the Grand Ole Opry. You know what I mean? That means more to me than anything.
There's a lot of stages I could have used there, but I know you well enough to know that the Grand Ole Opry was a big deal for a Nashville boy.
It don't get no bigger still to this day as far as getting that invite. Every time they call me to play it, I still haven't said no yet.
Right.
We say we're not available that date. We can do this date, but we never just flat hit them with the no, we'll get back to you. You know what I mean?
No, I've seen you back. I've been there with you enough to know that when you're backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, you're 10 years old, and your eyes are lit up, and you can't get out of those hallways. I mean, it creates a massive traffic jam because everybody's back there wanting to talk to you, and forget about it. You're just gonna work them hallways because you love the history, you love the reverence, you love talking to the people, it's fun to watch.
I still get there super early too.
That's true. Yeah, it's the one place you show up.
I show up there at 5:30 or 6.
Yeah, obnoxiously early.
3 hours
you beat
early.
the security
Every
there.
time. I'm always the first one in the parking lot. I love that place though, man. Was you there the night that Ernest ate the popcorn right before he went on stage? He was in our green room.
Yeah, but you gotta tell this.
And then he walks out on stage, and this is it's the Grand Ole Opry, but if y'all know Ernest, he is a lighthearted guy.
Only Ernest can pull this off.
And he was sitting in our green room he wasn't fixing to go sing, and he's just shoveling popcorn to the point you notice how much popcorn he's eating. And they come and tap him on the shoulder and go, all right, you're up. And he's like, oh, and he sets his popcorn down. He's like, he just waves at us because, he got popcorn hands. And he goes out there and he starts playing, and you can tell he realizes he didn't think this through. His fingers are slipping, and he just keeps wiping his eye.
I'll never forget it.
So finally he takes a break in the middle. He goes, I know some of y'all probably think I'm having an emotional moment up here right now, but truth is I just ate a bunch of that popcorn right before I got salt in my eye and I can't get it out. And he's up there, and the best part was he let everybody sit with it. I know y'all probably think we're having an emotional moment right now. And he's just, it's all he's got pink eye, wasn't it? He's just tearing this eye up. And it was because he had fucking popcorn salt still all over his hand.
The best part of it was that there were some of us that knew what was happening, but for the most part, he looked like he was having an emotional moment. He looked like he was crying.
We're laughing because I'm going, look, that's that popcorn in his head, because he's just playing to go.
And it wasn't even the right moment or song for an emotional moment, so it's kind of out of context to the point where everybody felt awkward. The whole audience was like, is he okay? What's happening?
He was playing his most up-tempo song of his career, and he's just, his eye was gushing water and just red as a beet. So good. Sorry, I just came. Every time I think about the Grand Ole Opry, I'll think about Ernest eating. I mean, I remember watching him eat that popcorn. Woman, that's a bold decision. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You thought it before you ever got out there.
I swear, dude, because like I won't eat a banana before I go on. Like I can't scare this stomach off. I want everything digested. I need no surprises. I do a pre-show push. I sit on the commode for 15 minutes just praying, like, God, if there's anything in here that shouldn't be, may it get out now or not come for 90 minutes.
And sometimes I've seen you do a mid-show push.
I've had to do a mid-show push too.
Quick.
I definitely had to jump off this. You've been there when I had to hit one of the like, I need y'all to riff this out. And the band's like, what? I'm like, I need a second. Somebody find a bathroom. I've had a false alarm doing that. Get in there and just have gas.
Yeah.
I could have done that on stage, you know.
Well, speaking of, jumping into shows, I love your pre-show ritual. I've been around a whole lot of artists that do a lot of cool things right before they perform, and a lot of it is to try to figure out how to settle their nerves or how to amp themselves up for what they're walking into. Some of it's for the people around them to try to bring everybody together so that you're one when you're up there performing and doing your thing. But it's important for you always to do a pre-show prayer. Mm. I'm curious about that prayer because I've been in that circle a whole lot of times and I've never talked to you about the why.
Mm.
That's important.
This is fun. I've never told this story, which is cool because I do enough of these now. I don't get to tell like stories I don't tell much. We were playing in like really rough bars early, like Sketchy, alleyway, trailers. I mean, like we played every kind of like, the amount of times I was in like early scary situations. And we played a bar one night, I'm not making this up, with the old school chicken wire.
Mm.
And
like
I was
you see
like,
on TV when throwing bottles at it.
Literally. And I was like, I think we were like Chillicothe, Ohio or something. Like we were in like one of them little towns somewhere in the Midwest, or it might even been somewhere in Kentucky. And I just remember going, oh no, this is real. And I talked to the manager, I'm like, what's that there for? He's like, oh, they're gonna throw stuff at you tonight. They throw stuff at everybody. And I was like, everybody?
So that's not for just in case.
Yeah, that's like, he's warning us like, yo, just prepare your show to know something's gonna hit that cage at some point. Because we have a few people might have bought a ticket to your show, but we have a lot of locals that come in here and they're just, it's just how it works. And I was like, God, this is crazy. And that was the night I was like, boys, we should probably pray before this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there's a chance.
It literally started because you were praying for safety.
Truly, only talked to God when I needed a favor. God,
that's
listen,
awesome.
Here we go, Lord. It's like, and
I thought you might have said something like, man, I'm always praying for my nerves and this, that, and the other. Like,
no.
For survival.
It was a genuine safety prayer. It was like, God, I was like, we should start bringing him in this thing. Because we'd have good shows and bad shows, and we'd get in bar fights all the time at the time, like big old barroom brawls. I've never talked about this on camera. This happened all the time. Denny's 3 o'clock in the morning fights. Like we were just a traveling circus in a RV or van, just trying to figure it out. And I was just getting about tired of it anyways. Sleeping in the van. Then you got to fight sometimes. You got to steal a TV off a wall at a bar for your money to pay. So I'm taking the flat screen. We've took pool tables. You know what I'm saying? We've done it. And I prayed that night and we all circled. And I just remember how it was the most awkward prayer ever. Like we didn't know how to pray really. And I prayed in jail, but never out loud. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, and it was just, I remember it just being like, God, just protect us in here. Like, just like, let us like, we don't need another one of these. Like, and we went in there, we didn't get nothing thrown at us. And I swear when I came off, we were like a bunch of degenerates. That were like, we were all drunk and on cocaine and they were like, it worked, dude, the prayer, man. We gotta pray. So then we go play our first gathering of the Juggalos after that, like shortly after. And they shoot Fago at you as a sign of love. It's really endearing, actually. It's really fun. And I grew up loving Juggalos and being a Juggalo as a kid. Like, I just loved that culture. But they warned me, they're like, they don't care, man. They're going to throw stuff at you. Like, it's going to get crazy. And I was like, we circled up and prayed. And we were the only group on that stage that night. Because this is back when the gathering would play at we'd played at 4:30 in the morning. So after the main stage went off, all the sub-underground artists would play all through the middle of the night throughout the campgrounds. And I remember we watched the group in front of us just get lit up. They were shooting bottle rockets at them and all kind of stuff. And I'm not making this up. That's the gathering. They were shooting look at me, y'all, bottle rockets at these people. I'll tell you another story one time about how I got a bottle rocket shot at me on stage with Yellow Wolf once at the gathering of the Juggalos, different year. But they didn't boo us. So then we started this gets real deep because the full prayer now. then as the road went down and we got more like older and secure and like less aggressive and like just more like just rock and roll, like let it all flow. Then it started turning into fights in the crowd every night. So we were like, we quit praying for our protection. And then we started praying, and you hear that's the first part of our prayers. Like, God, we pray that you protect everybody in this building, let them be served, let everybody get home safely. And then we started adding on to things as, I hate to say this, as tragedies would happen throughout the years. So like, it was just generally like, God, just protect everybody. And then we had a fan one time that died in a DUI accident leaving the show.
That's why you include that today.
That's why we talk about that today.
Wow.
So it's like now we say, God, don't let there be no drunk driving related incidences out here, Father God. Like, let everybody make the right decision tonight and get home safe. Like, that's like a specific part of our prayer. When we say no fights, that was how it first started. Like, God, just don't let there be no fights here tonight. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then there was a shooting at a bar. And we're like, don't let there be no fights or shoot. We started getting specific. Somebody got stabbed. We don't want no fights, no shootings, no stabbings, no DUIs, no drunk driving related incidences, Father God. We pray for a night of peace and rock and roll. You know what I mean? It's just over the years, things would happen in the early shows. And it's been that prayer now for like ever. And we always thank the family. We pray for protection. They're traveling now, just like we travel too much. So, but yeah, man, that's how the things, I don't know if I talked about that too long. I'm sorry. But
you did.
I've always wanted to talk about the prayer because people see it online sometimes, but that's like, we call it our magic moment. Like we truly believe that we don't have bad shows because of that prayer. Like, because we just take it. God says in all things, acknowledge him. And even when I wasn't fully aware of that word, it was in my heart. And even in my worst moments, I was at least acknowledging, you know what I mean? It's like, so now it's like we doubled down on the big shows. You want to hear a fun story?
Yeah.
I'm standing outside. I'm standing in Gorilla, which is the WWE. This is all fun, dude. Y'all better release all this because I haven't talked about none of this. We're standing outside of Gorilla. And the new thing that we added on the last tour kind of was we used to just walk and make our walk kind of, it was the only part of the whole night that was kind of quiet. Was the walk to the prayer. And I'm starting to not like that. So now I sing Oh Happy Day as I'm walking down the hallway. And what made me start doing it was the first time I did it, I go, oh happy day. And JB goes, JB's not a singer or nothing, but JB goes, oh happy day. I swear. So when he did it, I was like, oh, we're in it. He said it real quiet and how JB does it. And then Andy did it with him the next time. So I was like, oh, we got a thing going now. So I'm walking to Gorilla and it's just like me and Andy. And me and Andy are singing Oh Happy Day, just us two. And night one, I say, what are we gonna do? I was like, we gotta pray. So we just like me, Andy, and I don't remember who it was, like maybe one other person. It was a guy that works at WWE that's a man of faith I knew that kind of just came in and circled up as we circled up. It was just me and Andy, and we prayed. And we prayed our normal prayer. You know what I'm saying? Like, a little twist because it's a different thing. And then the next night I'm walking to Gorilla singing Oh Happy Day. Logan, Drew, Randy get in the prayer. I look up. Half of Gorillas, like the whole hallway's praying now. Wow. I was like, we've only been here 2 days.
Come on.
Like, let God bring me back here like 10 more times. And I might leave this with y'all. You know what I'm saying? This might be something that sticks. It's just so funny how fast it started, even in that world. Like, I was standing there with Andy, and it wasn't performing or nothing. It was just me. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like I'm performing though. You know what I'm saying? I'm clearly going out here to work an angle. I'm not like, I love Logan. Like, Logan's a sweetheart. You know what I mean? But it's been cool, man. So yeah, we carry the prayer through everything now. We do it before big podcasts or TV.
I'm so glad I asked that because it gives it so much more context and it means so much more now. It means a lot to me because I've caught it in the moment, and there's something about it that feels so genuine and authentic because I think prayer can be loaded for a lot of people. It often taps into, what do you believe? Do you believe this? Do you believe that? With what you experience with your belief system, were you wounded in it? And so often it's just a loaded deal. But for some reason, it doesn't feel like a traditional prayer, the ones that are formal and that have all the right language. It's just kind of a free-for-all. It's a circle that attracts people that believe, people that don't believe, and you can tell you're doing it for the people. I always loved those little riffs you did, but I had no idea they all had context.
Yep.
And you just picked them up along the way.
Yep, for sure.
I had a mutual friend that we both kind of mentored a little bit with some of the prison work that we've done that got out, as you know, a couple of years ago. I won't mention his name, but you probably know him, talking about out at San Quentin. And we were having a conversation. He was telling me a little bit of his story. And I know most of it, but there was one moment I didn't know, and I was really moved by it. And the way you just talked about that prayer reminds me of it. But I know about the worst day of his life, what he describes as the worst day of life, when he committed a crime that he couldn't take back and became incarcerated the next day. But I asked him, I said, was that your bottom? And he said, no. And I said, tell me more. And he said, 3 years into prison, I found myself in the hole, alone, And I had started praying the year before, and I was asking God for freedom every day. And I never heard anything back. And so I was about to give up on prayer because things couldn't get much lower. I had gotten into some violence. I found myself isolated, back in the hole again. They were looking at extending my sentence, just all the things you don't want to hear when you're incarcerated. And he said, but I thought I'd throw one more Hail Mary up. And this time I heard something back. And he said it was a bit of a thunderous voice that said, what are you going to do for me? He said, for the first time in my life, I had every prayer I had done up until then, I had asked him for something. And this was the first time that he asked something of me. And so from then forward, my prayers always went out instead of in. Still pray for myself, but I like praying for other people. Because I realize he's here to take care of more than just me. And the one thing I can do for him is to try to love on other people. I think you do that really well. It's one of the things that, and I started it off that way, and I'm glad you noticed it. I'm not surprised you noticed it. I'm glad you noticed it because obviously you got plenty of accolades and impressive elements to your bio. But I've gotten to know the human behind the craft. That's really what this show is all about. There's a lot of great people. I'm fortunate to have run with a whole lot of smart, successful people, depending on how you describe success. But it's the people behind it that I think carry this wisdom. And that's what I want to extract. Because people usually look at me as a wisdom keeper, somebody that does something more traditional, or a pastor, or a minister, or a therapist, or a counselor, or an educator. But I think it's the great artists of the world and the great athletes of the world that have so much more to say than they ever get to really say. And I want people to get to know that side of you a little bit the way that I do. And maybe it's because you get a later start in your success, or maybe it's because of some of the elements that you experienced on the way up. But for some reason, you seem crystal clear about your mission that this is way more than music for me. I've been moved by that, but I really got moved by that when I started seeing it in action. Because I can tell a lot of stories, but one of them is when you walk into a jail or a juvie, your whole body relaxes. And the one place the rest of us tense up. And I used to think, and I may be wrong or right, I don't know, you can clear it up for me, but I used to think, well, he's been here before. He knows the landscape. And I'm sure that's part of it. But for some reason, I think I just watch you tap into this higher calling. It's like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
For sure.
Say more about that.
I feel like that's where I'm in my purpose the most. You know what I mean? I'm glad you noticed that, because I truly am, like, even when you hear me talk to them, like, you've watched me speak in a lot of rooms now. That's the room I give the least amount of shits. And I'm the most genuine because it's like I can speak a language that, it's like having a forgotten language that you know, that you don't get to tap into very much. You know what I mean? But it's like, yo, I get this. Like, I know this is my purpose because I remember everything I wish somebody would have said when I was in here. And those things stain you, man. It's like, I'm blessed that my incarceration didn't end up becoming my entire identity, which I've noticed that some people, like even some friends I have that are like in recovery, that it becomes their whole identity. But I'm blessed too, though, that I know how to, that's the hope I want to give them too. When I'm trying to come in those rooms, it's like, yo, man, there's not only a day that you can get out of here, there's a day where you won't even think about this shit until you come back in here. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I'm relaxed and I'm kind of smiling on the inside because I'm really reminded of how far I've came, but most importantly, how far these kids can really come. You know what I mean? Like, I hope they look at when we walk in there as a beacon of hope. That's all I'm trying to be, is like, look, man. And that's why when I talk, I'm like, it was music for me. It might not be music for y'all though. That's cool. It could be trade work. It could be authoring. It could be, you could do anything, but like, just bring that passion that y'all find in here, because, man, that place is full of some of the most intelligent, charismatic dreamers I've ever met in my life. You've seen it now firsthand. Now, Jimmy, you've been to a lot of jails and prisons with me. You've been to a lot of jails and prisons yourself, but it's like, you see a different quality. Every time we go to San Q, we talk about our one boy that just made parole. Yeah. How many times you and I have had, I bet that kid will never know the hours of conversations me and you have had just about him.
About him. And
just how much belief we have in him, because his spirit radiates that much in a dark place, I truly believe that I was saying this yesterday, wrestlers, comedians, musicians, like, I think we are the storytellers of this generation. Like, and I think we're a great group of people to tell it. We're all entertaining. And the best story I've ever heard from any one of the three of us don't hold a candle to some of the shit I've heard in jail. I mean, I have heard hoots and a half in there. You know what I mean? I've heard
a lot of these stories.
I've heard
some of the characters and the nicknames.
It's unreal.
It's like you couldn't.
You think them, and if listen, you would think it almost has to be real because they couldn't make it up. And even if they could make that up, man, you don't need to be in here. If your imagination is that wild, you know what I'm saying? We got a spot for you at Disney, you know? I think it's important to go, and also back to purpose. I keep thinking about that quote in the Bible where Jesus goes, when I was in jail, you visited me. When I was starving, y'all gave me food. And they go, we didn't do any of that to you. He goes, you did it for the least, you did it for me. Like, that's how specific Jesus was, that he felt like that he used that as a teaching to people. They said, why are you giving us so much love? And he was like, you don't remember? You came to see me in jail. And you fed me when I was starving. And they were looking kind of weird, like, did we miss something? We ain't never seen this dude in jail. And they were like, no, you did it for the least, so you did it for me.
Come on.
You know, and it's like, I think about that every time we walk in there. You know what I mean?
You tell a story, and I don't know how many times you've told it publicly, but I really like it when you're talking to the guys on the inside, because you do drop into a different lingo. It's almost like, well, I grew up in a really small town in the South, and I am Southern as Southern can be, but I had to learn to translate my Southern voice when I started going to places like New York City and other places so people would understand me. I was talking so slow. And I married a Southern California girl. First time I took her to Hornwall, Tennessee, she was shocked.
Oh, for sure.
Everything dropped, and I just
I
started
was
talking
too, and I was from Nashville.
So country, and she just looked at me like, who are you? And I was like, I don't even know what's happening. Yeah. It's just I'm becoming part of what's a big part of my story. I watch you turn into using street lingo. You don't dumb it down though. It's like you're using intellect talking in street lingo. I wish I could record one of those talks. Most of the time we don't have cameras in there, so nobody will ever see them. But I'd love to see somebody do a TED Talk like that, because I think I've done a TED Talk and I'm proud of it. But I think a lot of times so many people that speak a different language, they're just not going to hear it unless you invite them into it in the way that you do. But one of my favorite stories you tell is your Damascus Road moment. And I believe it's when the day Bailey was born. And if you share it.
Yeah,
you'd be open to it.
I had been in and out of jail forever. I mean, that was like the story of my decade at that point, sadly. And one of the times I was out, I used to say this, I say this as a joke when I talk to the jail guys, it's kind of humor masking, but it's real. I used to have the kind of mama that when I would come home, she would ask me when I was going back in. You know what I mean? Like, I had the kind of mother that was like, what are you doing here? When are you going back? It's like, whenever they catch me, I guess. You know, it's like I lived that kind of a life. It wasn't if their son was going to jail, it was when, he's for sure. You know what I mean? It's inevitable he's going to get caught doing something. And during one of those times, I got a woman pregnant. And it's funny, you go in, you get locked back up, and you know it's like this thing, but out of sight, out of mind, and you're concrete and steel is your whole life. That's all you see or know. And I was in the worst unit you could be in. And you hear me joke about this with the guys where I'm like, I always knew where I was going. I never had to question it. At least early I found out I was going to wherever the violent offenders or gang members were, is exactly where they were sending me. And I've been in this unit for, 7 months. And I doing the poker thing and just running just being another convict, really. Just had no aspirations of leaving. And they came and knocked on my door May 22nd, 2008, that evening. And it might have even been May 23rd. It might have even been the next day. And they knock, I always say May 22nd because that's her actual birthday, but I'm sure that message took a day to deliver to me. And they knock on the door and the guard goes, D4, and I'm like, I look up like, fuck, it's locked down, so I thought I was in trouble. He goes, message, you had a kid today. Wow. And I go, do what? He goes, yeah, I think it was a girl maybe. And I go, do you know her name? And he goes, no. And I don't know if you ever heard me tell this in jail, but.
Never heard that side of the story.
Yeah. I was so mad at him in that moment, like furious. You know what I mean? Like, and this was a big moment for me, Miles, because in that moment, I'm like, this son of a bitch come knock on my door and give me this news and not even be sure what gender the baby is, not even know the name, this place, this facility, Davidson County, you.
Mm.
And I'd been doing that my whole life. That was my Damascus Road experience. Mm. It wasn't even just the daughter. It was the immediate reaction of my go-to, which is anger, which you've worked with me in rooms in private. That's still my thing I work on the most, is that my default emotion is fury. You know what I mean? And I got out of that anger and I sobbed. I mean, I sobbed. And I'm in a 3-man cell with 2 men during lockdown. It's me, a guy named Pony, and a guy, I think it might have been Johnny G, our cellmate, God rest his soul. And I remember their names forever, especially Pony. Me and Pony were cellmates that whole time, forever. Me and Pony were cellmates in Juvenile one time, but and I'm just crying. They'd never seen me cry. I'm just bawling. And I come out of there, and in the Bible, the Damascus Road is an experience where Saul was on his way to go kill a bunch of more Christians, and he was on his road to Damascus, and he was stopped by God himself. Jesus reveals himself to him. And instantly, he just completely flips. He changes his name from Saul, turns to Paul, totally different guy that dramatically quick. I remember thinking, sitting there, and this is like lockdown at the time, I don't know, it was maybe 2 to 4 or something, you know, whatever the shift change is, or 3 to 5, whatever it was back then. And I remember thinking, as soon as they open that door, I'm going to go sign up to be in. There was a sign-up sheet on the wall for the education unit. And this is where you could go get your GED if you wanted to. It was a unit that they would give you a chance to go get your GED. And that thing had been up there for 7.5, 8 months without a name on it. Didn't have a name on it for years. Nobody would sign up for it, Miles. They would know, because in jail, that would be like checking in. Imagine you come into this unit, it's all these big bad bears in here, and then you go up, all of a sudden you want to get your GED, like you've been a convict your whole life and now you want your GED, come on, quit being a clown. You know what I mean? Like it was, looked like you were checking in. As
kind of breaking the tribe a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like you were leaving. Looked like you were scared. You ultimately might as well have just said, I'm scared to be in here. Take me somewhere else, which is the ultimate no-go in jail. Once again, the death of man, we should talk about more in this, is male ego and pride. You know what I mean? That's all ego. That's all. My ego was so big in there. My ego was so big that even when I decided to sign up for the education unit, I made a fuss about it. I walked out of that jail. They popped our doors open and I slung mine to make sure it hit the other door loud, so everybody would know we were, I wanted the unit's attention. I didn't want nobody to think I was sneaking. That's the male ego. Think about how weird of a thought process that is. I was concerned about 221 strangers.
Inmates,
convicts, fellow convicts, and what they thought about me. That was a concern of mine, even in this moment, And I walked with my shoulders out and I stomped all the way to that unit, to that sign, and I signed it. I don't think I've ever wrote my name bigger and bolder. I probably took 3 lines. And I remember I turned around all cocky. I said, Pony, you and such, come here, grab y'all gonna have this commissary shit. And I was just gonna give away all my commissary, And they should, I got
commissaries, all the stuff you'd won with poker.
Yeah, all the poker stuff. I got a bag of 70 soups. And that was another thing that happened in that moment of my daughter that was like, I remember being proud of having the most amount I was the store in jail. So I had the most bread items, which were like honey buns. I had the most soups, which were Raymond's, and the most chips. So I had hundreds of items, And I'm sitting there during that 2-hour break before I go sign up for education. And after I'm done crying, I start thinking, man, I'm proud of being worth $75 of street candy bars. Like, I'm proud of owning $150 worth of soups. I have one outfit to my name, the one I got arrested in. I don't have anywhere to go when I leave here. The girl I was with burned all my clothes. She found out the absolute cheating scumbag I was. I've always been. And I remember thinking, I'm responsible for a human. Like a whole human, And I just was like, I went down to that education unit, Miles, and I spent my whole life thinking I was stupid. You know what I mean? I knew I could read better than most people. A skill I had learned early. But other than that, I was like, I just thought I was, every other dumbass. And I got that GED, and I was so proud of myself. And then something happened to me that never happened before. I got afraid. Because when you get your GED, guess where you go back to? The unit I just came from. I didn't want to go back there. And it's so funny how you spend your whole life in one thing or one way. And you know this, so trapped in this one thing. And you know it's bad, but you don't even realize how really bad it is ever until you actually get away from it. You know what I mean? Like, I used to sell drugs in front of stores I wouldn't pump gas at now.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like that reckless kind of abandonment. And here I am having that moment on a micro level. Now I've seen it at a macro level now that I'm out of jail and free. But even at a micro level, I was like, I want to stay down here with the inmates that want to do better. Don't put me back down there with the inmates that don't. You know what I mean? And Darren Hall, our sheriff, he met with me.
Love that man.
I love him to death. He met with me while I was in jail, and because of my charges, I wasn't supposed to be on the other hallway. I was supposed to be in that unit. That's the only unit I was supposed to be in. And Kurt Campbell and a guy named Carl Carson, who runs a company called Men of Valor, came and spoke on my behalf to Sheriff Hall and said, he's a good kid, let him in our program. And I joined the Jericho program. And to this day, I count that to like the new playground, new playmate stuff that we always talk about. You know, like had Sheriff Hall not given me that grace and went against his own protocol and put me back in that unit, would I have went right back to that poker table? I wasn't established enough in my faith or in my progress to want to be a different human at that point to just go down there and be like, I want to tell y'all, we should all be getting our GEDs. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't in that place, clearly. You know what I mean? And he gave me grace and gave me somewhere to go grow slowly.
I feel like there's a lot there, and I think you've told parts of that story publicly before, but the reason I wanted to share it here is I think there's a pivot moment on every human on the planet. I've had mine where suddenly, for whatever the external circumstances that motivate it, but you put down the microscope you've got on the world and all the things and people that have victimized you, and you pick a mirror up and you recognize there's one person that has the ability to make the change that you strive for, and it's you. And it's a painful moment, but it is a game-changing moment, because I think it's where we usher in humility and it starts to edge out ego. And I believe when humility's on board, vulnerability starts to get birthed. And I think when vulnerability comes alive, people come around you and want to help. Just like Darren Hall saw something in you he might not have seen the year before.
Right. That's real.
And that opened the door to who I've seen you continue to become over time, which is, I just want people to hear that. And you told it through using some biblical context, and sometimes people are, I think, surprised, especially mainstream Christians are surprised at how knowledgeable you are biblically and what you know. And you actually call your shows from stage sometimes church for the brokenhearted. Yeah. But yet you've got a little aversion to organized religion at times. And I'm wondering how you arrive there and how you kind of handle that tension. I think a lot of us can feel it, but you've kind of rode that edge to where you're criticized in one way for standing up and representing something in a way that makes some people feel a little uncomfortable. And yet you find it a big part of your foundation and really important to help other people become free.
Yeah. It's well, I never get to talk about this neither. Here's one thing about it, like straight up talking. I have learned in life that I'm allowed to have my own relationship with Jesus. And I can have my own relationship with God, and I can view him the way that I interpret him through what I'm reading, and the people that I let pour into me. I was lucky that I was indoctrinated with some core values and beliefs in a lot of churches whenever I was younger, just being from the South. But then being disconnected from it forever and reading the New Testament for the first time when a Gideon slid it under my door in Juvenile Hall when I was 16 years old, and I have no frame of reference of this. I don't know what they're preaching in any pulpit across America. I'm only limited to reading the New Testament. That's all I have. It's the only book in my cell. And it's the only material I'm allowed to read from like age 15 to 22.
That is your textbook, literally. That's all you got.
So I'm reading it every day. And so when I come home and I get involved in a couple of churches, I'm so excited to just be involved with, it's like, imagine never being in an AA meeting, but reading the Blue Book 1,000 times and then going to one like, my people are here. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are my folks. And immediately crash padded like, oh, we've all read this thing a little differently. You know what I mean? Like instantly. And I think that it's what I encourage for people when I talk is like, man, don't listen to any of these people. Don't listen to the critics online. You find you a pastor for sure, but after you've read it, read it and get a base for yourself. Because I truly believe that if you can objectively just read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you would see some of my problems with the church. You know what I mean? Like you would immediately understand. If you just read those and then went to, imagine this is because I had that context of like reading it with a bunch of dudes in jail with no teachers and like just us kids, like yo. And of course we're kids, so we're looking for like the cool stuff. And there's a lot of cool stuff. Jesus does so much cool stuff in the Bible. Like I tell people all the time, like whether you believe he's the Son of God or not, put that to the side. Can we all just agree he was awesome? You know what I'm saying? Like I think,
good dude.
And they do. My Muslim friends are like, yo, we agree. We disagree about the main point here, but all that other stuff, Jesus was the dude. Like, you know what I mean? The Jews are like, what are you talking about? Jesus was a Jew. All my Jewish friends are like, we love Jesus too. You know what I mean? It's because if you really boil it down to Jesus, and I think about when we were kids, what would Jesus do? Bracelets. You know what I mean?
WWJD.
Yeah, you remember those.
Of course.
And it's like, I think I want to bring them back. But it's like, I remember the WWJD, and it's like, the more I read about Jesus, the more that my relationship with him started impacting my change. And truly, my heart, and it's been a very slow turn. You know, I'm still very vulgar, but that's almost about all that's left. You know what I mean? Like, as you know, it's just, I still got a potty mouth, but like, I'm very conscious of my message now. And I'm even more conscious the older I get of being like, look, I'm not against organized religion. Like however you find Jesus, but just give me the same love.
It's
You know what I
interesting.
mean?
It's
That's
interesting
how I feel.
because
You
most
know?
of us were taught it's not up for interpretation. This is the way it is. This is the way it's supposed to be read, and this is the way you're supposed to understand it. And so it always felt to me like I was boxed in. And if I had more questions than answers, then I was an outlier, which, you know, scripturally is more dangerous than a sinner that doesn't believe at all. And I think I've always been drawn to circles. I've always said this, I think rows inform and circles heal. And I think the fact that we start your show with a circle, I don't care if it's a prayer or not. I think it's awesome that it's a prayer, but it's a circle.
Right.
And everybody's welcome in that circle.
Yes, sir.
No matter what you believe, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done. We are creating a circle. And then I'll somehow watch you go up there on stage to 50,000 people and create a circle in a stadium.
That's the goal.
Why is that the goal?
Well, it's connectivity. This message is so much bigger than music, because music is so much bigger than music. Like, I'm biased because it's my particular field, but we truly are the center of the world. Like, everywhere you go, we are.
Music.
Everywhere. Yeah, we are. Like, everywhere you go, we are. You're in your car, we're there. You're at dinner with your wife at the nicest steakhouse in town, be quiet for 2 seconds and listen. What's on that radio? It's playing. Something's on there. I tell you what you're not doing is just hearing forks clink. You know what I mean? You walk into the department store, like we are. Like, music is truly, it's like music, we talked about this a lot in therapy, about tears, about, you know, like how I didn't cry for so long and now I can't quit crying. Tears, my favorite is, I wrote a song one time called If Tears Could Talk. And it was something I heard in a therapy session. It was like, what would that say? Can you vocalize that emotion? And I remember saying, I think I can't. I think that's what they're saying. And that's what songs do for us. Like, songs have this really unique way of being like, I spent my whole life trying to tell people this is how I feel. And in a 3-minute and 25-second song, you have completely encaptured my soul. You know what I mean? How many times, I don't know if you were this guy, but or anybody out there, leave a comment. But I was the kid that was like, you knew how I was feeling by what I was listening to. Or if I played you a song, especially with like a girl, you know what I mean? Like, or me and my wife still send each other songs. You know what I mean? Like, there'll be like.
What's the last one you sent her?
She just sent me Daisies by Justin Bieber. She loves that
That's
on
so
this new
good.
record. She loves that. It's that's what made me think about it. I gotta have to look at what I sent her last. But she just sent me Daisies by Bieber, and I was like, yo, you know, but we're just always still, like, whether we're just discovering a song because it's cool and you want to be the first one in the couple that found it, or you're like, it's your way of saying I haven't told you I love you in a day the way that I want to. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll send you that kind of a song. But I've always been that.
We were at Stagecoach, and it was the first time you'd brought young Alex Warren out. I think it's the first time you had him out.
First time we ever had him out.
And Ordinary was just starting to pop. And you told the story of it, how it impacted you, how you heard it, and how it's made you love your wife deeper. I'll never forget that. That was incredibly compelling because I think you brought the whole audience into what I believe music does better than anything, which is it tells our story.
It tells our story.
And I hear you say all the time, music was your currency, music was the path, music was what got you out. But honestly, I've thought before, I don't know if it's not story. I just think you are a great storyteller as an orator or as an artist, but I just think you love the currency of story. I've watched you in...
Jesus taught in parables. Why am I attracted to wrestling? Storytelling. Why do I drag you to comedy shows every time we have a day off? You know what I mean? Stories. Why do I enjoy sitting with you?
We tell stories.
We tell stories.
All we do.
You've taught me therapy through stories. You found out real fast that I learn quicker if you can hook a story in. You know
That's the only way. You'll remember it.
I'll remember
the only way I really engage you.
Yeah.
Is through story.
True story.
It was interesting because our field, i.e. psychology, it comes with a lot of baggage too, because we got a lot of insider speak. And it surprised me when we were first getting to know each other. Well, we'd known each other socially, but when we got engaged, last March, I guess, we really started our journey.
Let's touch on that for 2 seconds. Not to take control of your podcast, but man, you want to talk about pivot moments. That was probably the second biggest pivot moment in my life. Maybe third, whenever I darkened your door. It was truly that moment of where we all come to a moment where we look at something and go, what the fuck? And that's where I was at with my eating.
Well, if you remember, we had talked like a year before, briefly. And you said, hey, I know about you, I've heard about you, I know you've done some great things in the industry, you've helped friends of mine. You got any thoughts for me? And I had said a few things then that I didn't remember. Probably 2 or 3 minutes worth. I had said a few things. We didn't have a lot of time. And a year to the date, you called me. And I picked up the phone and said, hey, it's Jelly. And, you know, a year ago, you shared something with me. And you said it word for word, exactly what I shared. And I'll try to recall it. You'll know better than me. But I said, back then, you said, is there anything you have for me? I said, well, I've been around this business a long time, and I've seen a lot of people find a significant amount of success and still have way more questions than answers once they arrive there. And I try to make sure that people are chasing the right thing, or else they'll end up in the wrong place. Because we often don't, if we don't define success, people are going to define it for us. And the world usually gets it wrong. We know that much. But you were tied to this rocket ship at that time.
You said that.
Yeah. The rocket ship.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You followed what you just said up then with what you're probably fixing to say now.
Yeah, I said, you're tied to a rocket ship right now, but there's one thing I want you to know about it. You think it's left, and it hadn't even taken off yet.
Yeah.
And it's going to get bigger, and it's going to get bigger. And a year from now, you'll be looking around asking yourself the question, why did I sign up for this? And I went and said a few more things, but you remembered word for word every detail.
That's why I just lit up then when you said it, because you also, one of the reasons I remember everything you said is when I hung up that phone, that was one of the first times somebody had prophesied that on me like that. You know what I mean? Like the label kept being like, no, this is like outperforming everything. Like it's the trajectory you're on is crazy, but I still had no frame. Like, you know what I mean? You know, my manager, he's a great guy, but he's really, you know what I mean? He doesn't emote. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't tell if he thought we were going in the right direction or not.
Actually,
I felt like we were doing good. You know what I'm saying?
I don't want to take a side trail here, but he does. I've sat by him now over 50, 60 times at that soundboard.
Oh yeah.
And
it gets him every night almost.
Every night. Yeah. I've watched a moment where you connect with the crowd and the crowd connects with you, and I see this old school New York dude, tear coming down. Yeah. It's almost like he doesn't want anybody to see it. He won't ever look right or left. He just looks straight forward.
But just looks straight through it. No, it's so him, man. But you told me that then. You prophesied that on me. You were like, dude, you're on a rocket. It's like, in a year, you're going to look up. And that's exactly how I darkened your door. I looked up a year later. And you remember when I called you, how I started that call? I said, we talked about this a year ago. I said, you won't believe this, Miles. It happened. I was like, everything we talked about happened. Every worry I had in my life is gone. I was like, because even then I was talking to you about getting help then, but I was like, I got this and I got that, and I don't know when I'll have time. And that's when you were like, I get it, you're on a rocket ship, but you're going to find me one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget that.
I noticed too, early on, you talked about the currency of story and how you really connect to that, but I also noticed that just as well read as you were in religious context, you were equally as well read in psychology, which always makes it harder for us. That it's almost like, what do you have to offer if the guy in front of you knows more than you do? And you'd read a lot of the books. You'd had a lot of time to read, but you read a lot of the books, and that was part of your shield. Was before I could get there, because you love banter. I do too. We have great debates. We've had some fun debates. And hopefully we'll have more. But that was part of what you love to learn. And you were like, teach, tell me more. And I was like, well, I like this part of you, but the longest journey we ever take as human beings is from here to here. And if we're gonna get anywhere, we gotta get in here.
What is it, 18 inches?
Yeah, longest journey we take as mankind. You remember that too?
You taught that to me.
18 inches from here to here.
Yeah.
But I realized pretty quick it was gonna have to be a really unorthodox approach, which was a change for me. It had to get me way outside of my comfort zone, because there was, this is what you've taught me. One of my favorite things about the work I get to do is when it feels really reciprocal. And really it's never not been. There's never been a human I've sat across of that I didn't learn from. But in this case, you've taught me the value of trust in a way that no education on psychological safety ever could. Because trust in your world, I learned, doesn't come cheap, and it's earned. And without it, there's not many places you can go. And I realized pretty quick, I need to slow down on trying to drop stuff into you that I think might be helpful for your story. And first, I need to share a little bit of my story so we can build a relationship. I'll never forget when we had this big bridge that came across the table. And at first I was a little taken aback, but you were like, Miles, I got to tell you something. I've been thinking about it overnight. I was like, what's that? And he said, you got some white trash in you. He did. And I didn't know if I should be offended or if that was a compliment. But that was the very beginning of you reached over into my neighborhood and saw something nobody sees.
Yeah.
And I felt seen, because it is a compliment, because I grew up in a part of the world where it was white trash.
For sure.
And these are my people. But I had been gone from that for quite some time. And it's almost like you brought me back into a childhood experience where you grew up with poverty and people that didn't have anything. And I still love them to this day, but that was I remember it took me a minute to even agree with you. I was like, huh? Yeah. Like, you know what? You just saw me. And from that moment on, I think we've seen each other ever since. And what's been fun about this, it's been very unorthodox, but we've developed a friendship. And it's one that I've always wanted. Because the thing that bugs me about my profession is that I've never thought it should just be reserved for the anonymity of a dark room and the confidentiality of nobody that's ever going to hear your story, or a circle in a church basement that nobody will ever know you walked into except for the people in that circle. I value anonymity. I get it. I understand it's important. It's really important for people on the front end to change. But if we're not humanizing the concepts and the conversations that we get to have on a daily basis and taking them into friendship and relationship, into marriage and boardrooms and classrooms, then I think we're missing the point.
Yeah.
And if I'm not trying to work myself out of a profession so that one day people like me aren't needed because there's friendships like this. I mean, I know now we do a lot of different things together. We're doing some stuff in the nonprofit space together, which I'm really excited about. You're going to join me on a couple mental health ventures. I'm really excited about that. And I help advise you on the management side, which has been a lot of fun. But sometimes you introduce me as part of your management team. Other times you introduce me as a mentor. And sometimes it's as a friend. And isn't it, it's rare, but I think it's beautiful that we can check every one of those boxes and say, yep.
A lot of that was inspired by our friendship though, Bubba. It's like, I had a real moment in my life where hanging around 9 long enough, you'll be the 10th. My daddy used to say this all the time. And I looked up at every phase of my life, and every time I was doing something that crossed the moral compass thing for me, I was having conversations with people that wasn't fruitful. I was hanging around people that wasn't fruitful. And then I was wondering why I couldn't bear fruit and why I was starving. How come I'm a dead tree and how come I'm hungry? You know what I mean? I don't talk about this publicly at all. But one of the worst moments of my adulthood was when I had an affair on my wife, because it was the first time that I was like, I really can't get this right at all. Like, I know I'm in love with this woman. You know what I mean? Like, it was just it just really, really, really blew me back. And I did a lot of work to repair that relationship. You know what I mean? Like, the repair has been special, man. We're stronger than we could have ever been. And I wish our story would have went in the way that it never had an affair. And I'm in no way glad it happened, but man, I'm proud of who we are today. You know what I mean? I truly am. But I looked back at even that moment in my life, and it was like I was hanging around a bunch of people that were cheating on their wives. I was, when I was doing cocaine, I was hanging around a bunch of people that were doing cocaine. When I was drinking a lot, I was hanging around a lot of people that were drinking a lot. And I wanted to, this is something I went into the world. And then of course, you don't know how to make friends in your late 30s. You know what I mean? I had no frame of reference to that. I used to be proud of long-standing friendships just because they had a number attached to them. Horrible humans, but I would just be proud to say, a dude's been with me 12 years. Shitty human. You know what I mean? Like that's ego stuff still too, you know? And when we started having conversations, it started being more like our days would start with like grown man talk. How'd you sleep last night? Dope. How'd you and the wife? What'd y'all do? Was it cool? You know, like it started turning into challenges. Who could go home and do better or pick up something they'd missed? You know what I mean? Like those were the relationships I wanted. You know what I mean? Like that was the best part of our friendship was like, I wanted to be friends with people I wanted to be like. I want to be like you, Miles. Like, I think you're a great father. You're the father I want to be. I'm not that father yet. I want to be that father, and I think you see the potential in me to be that father. But I'm not as present. I try to be, but I travel. I'm in a whirlwind circus, but that's not an excuse. I should make more time for my boy. I watch you do it with your schedule. You know what I mean? You make the hell out of time for your kids. You're the kind of father I wanted to be. I was hanging around guys that wasn't around their kids and didn't want to be fathers or were ego fathers. They just wanted the credit of being a father, but didn't actually want to get in there and do the gritty work of it. That's what I admire about our relationship more than anything is that it's like, even with mentoring, it's like, I want to only be around people I want to be like, you know, like guys that I have fruitful, like these kind of conversations. And it's funny, they started in a therapy room, but then it became a lifestyle. And that's why I think it's important it gets outside of that dark basement too. Because I want men to watch this and maybe have a moment where we think as men, who are we hanging out with and what are we talking about? What are the conversations that we're having on the way home from
How are we
work?
spending our time?
Yeah, when we're calling our homie, are we talking about the hot secretary at work? Are we calling our homie talking about how we're trying to surprise our family with a trip Saturday? What kind of conversations are we having? You know what I mean? Like, you'll start to learn a lot about your friends with those kind of conversations. And I've learned that when I got around the right 9 and I started becoming the 10th, I started becoming more fruitful. My relationship got better. I came home with I'm more present in my relationship. I'm more present in all my relationships. You know what I mean? Because I'm hanging around 9 people that are constantly pushing me and better, and they're having these kind of uncomfortable conversations that are, you know, bringing these to me.
Well, and first of all, thank you for what you shared about how you admire me as a father. You could have said you think a lot about me in any other area of my life, but that one means more to me right now than anything in the world, because it's the one area that, ironically, I don't feel like I measure up like I want to measure up. I think I am. I'm proud of a lot of things that I'm doing there, and I always feel like I'm just a little bit behind of what I could do. But you have a little bit of a superpower in that the way you look into people, and you do it one-on-one and you do it 1 on 50,000, but you can look into people and see something and have a deep belief in more. You see potential in an interesting way. It's almost like you call it out of people. I remember when we were sitting on a porch of one of the cabins at Onsite, and it was the first time your mind had been quiet in a while. You'd been on a roll, and suddenly we just stopped. It's like, we're just gonna take a month.
Hard month.
Spend every day together.
Yep.
And we did. And that was a big sacrifice on your part and my part. But somehow we pulled it off. I didn't think we'd pull it off, but you're pretty damn convincing.
No, I didn't either, but I'm glad we pulled it. Yeah. We pulled a real month off.
It's wild.
We might not ever get another one of those.
I know.
That hurts my heart sometimes. We got to do that again.
We took walks. We sat on porches. We talked about things. But I'll never forget when we were sitting on that porch. And I'd sat on that porch 100 times. I'd looked around the property that I'd helped curate hundreds and thousands of times. But you were just standing there. You were sitting there looking. You were sitting in a rocking chair just looking at it. And you just looked over at me. You said, "Look." And I was like, thought you were pointing out the grass or something. And you just said, do you ever take time to just look around at what you've created? Are you proud of it? And nobody had ever asked me that in the entire time that I'd been on that hill up there. And it was in that moment that I took that 18-inch journey, and immediately I was like, I am proud of it. I don't ever talk about it.
Yeah.
And I just had another one of those moments when you talked to me about being a dad. Part of, I think, where we struggle as human beings is if we're really good at looking at the ailments of our story, the challenges of our story, it's very difficult to hold the context of that alongside the progress. Because guys that are really self-aware, you get attached to the painful parts of your story, and you can break the victim loop. We've both done that, but it's still easy to overanalyze when we have setbacks.
Right.
And forget that we've just made a hell of a lot of momentum. And I am a great dad. I work hard at it, and I've made a lot of momentum, a lot of repairs, and have setbacks. Had one earlier this week. I've been sitting on that setback until you looked in there and said, and you called something for you. You didn't call me out.
Yeah.
You invited and called me forward. Yeah. And I hope, like what you said, I hope more people, more men specifically, see this and recognize that 100% what you said. You hang around the barbershop long enough, you get a haircut.
Yeah.
That is a truth.
Yeah.
But we also don't have enough time to spend with only a certain amount of people, unless you just want shallow relationships. So me adding you to my life meant something else had to go, and vice versa. But the payoff is remarkable.
Yeah. Mine was probably easier to let go. You know what I'm saying? I saved a lot of money by switching to miles for sure. Well, whoever I let go probably asked me for $50,000 a year.
You know what? I don't know about that, because I do think you're unapologetic as a creative and you just swing. And I'm a guy that's played it safe for a long time. I've just learned to play it safe. And you got after me about that immediately. You got a whole lot. That's why we're sitting here.
Yeah, we better be.
That's why we're doing the podcast right now. Doing this podcast.
Yes.
It's because you got behind.
Because I was like, Bubba, you're too good to hide in that basement, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and you knew that because it started in a basement, and then you built a treatment facility, and then you built a campus, and then you bought every piece of land next to the campus, and then you looked at another campus in San Diego, and now you're looking at another. We're talking about opening a nonprofit campus for people to get the same kind of experience that can't afford it or similar to, like this is the conversations we're having. It's like your message is, and it's us having this kind of conversation is like, even right now, when I look at you, come on, you're a great dad, and your instinct is like, because you're holding on to a bad moment. Dad moment earlier this week, which, dude, as a parent, I have a bad dad moment every day. You know what I mean? Right. And it's like, but even then, you're complete, honest reflection from you. Even in that moment, like, that's inspiring. You know what I mean? That a guy that has all the tools you have can still go, blew it this week, though, buddy. You should have seen me on Monday. And that made me gain so much trust in you. So when you would circle back to give me information, I was like, yo, this is coming from a guy who's really self-reflective. He's not out here walking on water.
Thanks, brother.
It's inventory. You know what I mean? It's that that's one of the most beautiful things I thought AA taught us, is like the old school go home and really every conversation, you nitpick it. Like I had one the other night with Bunny. I'll give you one since you gave me one. I was tired. And of course, I'm down here training for my WWE SummerSlam stuff, and I'm putting my body through stuff it's never been through, like extreme stuff. Like unreal, see it all on the night of. Oh, this will be out after that. I mean, I'm going through tables.
Oh, I've seen some of the videos.
I'm spinning, slamming.
When you said you were going to do this, I was like, I get it, childhood dream. I kind of got it, but I was like, dude, you gonna do this? I was worried about you getting hurt.
And listen, you're gonna get hurt. I don't think I'm gonna get injured, but I have learned everybody in this business gets hurt. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm hurting today, but I'm putting my body through all this, and she is very hormonal. We are planning our eggs the week of this podcast. So she's with our surrogate tonight. It's like a very emotional, tense week for her. She's PMSing at the same time. She's just coming off all these IVF journeys. She is just like an emotional ball. And I haven't had a phone in 10 months. I just got a phone. So I'm kind of like dealing with the fact that people can call me now whenever they want to, which is a new concept to me.
Yeah. It's been about a year, hasn't it?
It's been almost a year.
Yeah.
So I'm literally like, she poor thing, she called me like 6 times that day. And I'm not getting frustrated. I love her. I answer. But by the end of the night, I'm calling and she's like, we feel like we've hardly talked today. And in that moment, I know that she's nervous about this thing. She's hormonal. She just needs security right now. She'd see me go, baby, I'll talk to you all night. I'm so sorry. We should have talked more. I was busy. But instead, she got the bunny. We talked 7 times a day. And I never had that attitude, but I was about half asleep and I'd already took my pills. No excuse. But I'm just, and that's all I said. I wasn't mean. I didn't cuss. But even then, and dude, I felt bad about it going to sleep. So I woke up and the first thing I did was repair. Immediately, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. She's not going to be up for 3 hours. But I sent a text like, yo, completely tone deaf moment on me. I was utterly in my own shit and I was so in my own shit, I didn't care about yours. And when I see where you were at, yeah, I could have just simply been like, and that's how I really feel. It wouldn't have been as simple. It's how I really feel is I love you. And we're going to be good. And the surrogacy's going to go great. And if it don't, we're going to be fine because we've always been fine. And that's what you needed to hear. And instead I was an asshole who's like, what more do you want from me? I talk to you 7 times a day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I didn't even say that. I was just like, Bunny, we talk 6 times a day. And she just kind of got quiet. Like, I love you. I'll call you tomorrow. Yeah. Right then I was like, oh, come on. But you have those instant moments. And it's something that small. It's like me and Bunny don't have those moments once every month, maybe. It's something that tiny. We weren't going to argue about it the next day. She wouldn't have brought it up. But I want to do better. You know what I mean? And I want her to know that I'm aware now because I spent so much of our relationship unaware and just egoed out and me, I. And it's easy in our business because we move at such a rapid pace that unfortunately there has to be a rotation around us as a sphere. Like we are an axis. That's just by default of the traveling. But I got to learn how to leave that stuff in business.
We talked about this a lot in the early days at Onsite about how it's not about the rip, it's about the repair. Talked about how to repair relationships and what that looks like. And I've been doing pretty good at that on the parenting side too. Surprising how much a little one can actually get an apology.
Yeah.
Could have done that different. But in your case, you're now responsible for hundreds of people. I don't know if you ever saw yourself getting there. I've heard you joke before. This is something interesting about you I bet nobody knows. Is that when we go in certain urban areas or certain cities, you want to go to the hood. You want to drive to the hood. And sometimes you want to take somebody there like me or take somebody with you. And I watch you when you do it and it's not reminisce, you just talk.
Yeah.
You're pointing out things that you know. And the same thing when you walk into a jail and you're talking to a bunch of guys, you said, I've never been here, but I've been here because I know the smell.
Yeah, for sure. I ain't been to this one, but I've been to one that smells like it.
And it's honestly, it's refreshing because you never want to not be reminded of who you are and where you came from. I mean, think about it, as I've heard you say, you were around a lot of people that didn't have normal jobs or jobs in general. And now you are in essence a CEO of a multi-million-dollar organization with hundreds and hundreds of people you're responsible for. And occasionally, of course, that pressure is going to get to you because you're also the artist and the out front guy. A lot of people that I've worked with over the years struggle with pressure. And I know you and I, we've talked about this a lot too. It's tough to identify it in real time and it's really tough to step back from it and respond versus react. And I've seen you do a little bit of both. How do you feel like you're navigating it now?
I'm getting better at responding and not reacting, but it's so, I didn't have any understanding of how this could have went. Like, even when you're watching artists on TV and you're like, I'm sitting at home and I'm 32 years old and selling, 700 tickets, 1,000 tickets, and I'm watching the CMAs and I'm watching these big artists, I'm not recognizing, even in that moment of like, I employed 12 people at the time, 8 people or something, I'm looking like, I would have never guessed Kenny Chesney employed 250 people. You know what I mean? And then you become it. And it's such a unique thing. And your perspective there is like, that's what I love about us and our relationship is how that perspective was one I needed right then. It was like, I'm thinking about these whole neighborhoods, like I could employ the entire apartment complex. You know what I mean? Like technically, like the 150 unit apartment complex, I could give every family a job. That's crazy. You know what I mean? I grew up in smaller trailer parks. You know what I'm saying? But I'm learning to just try my best. How do I always say it backwards, but you're 3 R's.
Oh, reset, reconnect, and repair.
Yep. And what's the other one? The re-enter one? It's like
you got me now.
No, I can't remember, but we talked about it once. It was like the idea of like you recognize, reset, re-enter.
Yeah, that's probably closer.
Yeah, like you taught me both, but it was like the idea of like, what we talked about this was, Mary taught me this too, was about the pantry.
Oh yeah.
So for y'all watching, I had a thing where most people with food addictions we have places that we hide and eat, kind of closet eating. And we were talking about that, and it was the first time you gave me a real reference point of like, stop, reset, like get out of it.
Take a step back.
Like take one step back.
Physically, like if you're somewhere.
It might have been reset, reassess, re-enter. You know what I mean? You like just reset, immediately just step out and go, what the fuck am I doing here? And then reassess, why am I here? And then if you
reconnect.
And then reconnect. And if the purpose is real, go back in there. So many times I took that at first, just that piece of information to help me in my early days of my food addiction. I'd find myself in that pantry and I'd get in that bag of chips or something, and right then I'd go, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'd walk out of the pantry, why am I in here? And you always said this is one of your things you taught me, is what is it, who am I right now? How old am I right now? Why am I actually going in that pantry? And something I learned in therapy that helped me a lot too was, if the purpose is actually food, then what food am I going in there for? Let me be very specific about what I'm grabbing, because if I walk circles, I'm gonna eat everything I shouldn't eat. You know what I mean? I can't walk around a dope house all day and not end up doing dope.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, and then not what I learned in this process was 9 out of 10 times I didn't have to reconnect at all. You know, I just left. You know what I'm saying? It was immediately like I was a disconnect. Then it was like, I have no reason to be in that fucking pantry. It's midnight. I'm going here because I stop every night on my way.
Well, you did reconnect. You just made a better decision.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But I didn't go back into, and I try to do that a lot now. I carry that philosophy that y'all taught me into day-to-day life. Responding and reacting is the real lesson here, though.
I noticed when you should bring you some water, but I noticed when we were at Onsite during that season, and some of the therapeutic hacks and information you loved, but there were other elements that I watched you kind of come alive on. Because initially, like a lot of public people, they come into a communal environment like that, and they're like, I don't want to see a human. I don't want to talk to a human. And for some people, we set it up that way, and it's what they need. But for people that are really social and thrive energetically on people, it often unfolds differently. And I watched it unfold differently for you. And I'm curious, what else did you notice about a therapeutic environment like Onsite that you felt like might even have benefited you more than the therapy itself?
Dude, I went and bought an entire farm based on my experience at Onsite. Just an entire farm. I don't know how much the therapy cost me, but I know how much the inspiration did, and I hate you for it. I'll never remember the therapy bill, but I'll always remember the farm bill. I'll never forget one of the first days. It's just a cliche story, but there's a lot of like finding yourself and trying to reconnect with just who you are. And especially, I needed it more than ever, because not only my food addiction, but like in the middle of this thing fixing to blow up, I was finding myself getting angry and just all the time. And I was 500 and something pounds, and I just was getting fatter and fatter, and it just was getting worse and worse. And it goes back to being around the wrong 9. It wasn't even just that. I had the wrong habits in my life. The few days a year I was home, I was playing video games 18 hours a day and eating cupcakes. You know what I mean? I just was in a complete disconnecting state. And it even started before the people and the energy of because there's a healing thing that's happening there all the time that's special, that's not outside of you. Like, you're watching people heal all day. Like, I remember one of my first weekends, y'all have a program where y'all bring in families who I think can't afford it, about losing children. Yeah. It's like a bereavement program.
It's called Life After Loss. It's called Life After Loss. Parents. Yeah.
Yep, and it's for grieving parents, and they plant trees, and it's like, day one, I can't lie, you feel the heaviness on the campus. It's like, and it affects you, but not in a bad way, like it's like you're not alone in your shit. Even though you're alone in your shit, like I've been in this room all day dealing with my shit, I get to come out and know that I'm not alone in this shit. You know what I mean? And but by the 4th day of it, dude, it was a party. It was a whole different thing. I mean, you could feel it.
You could see and feel the transformation.
You felt it over the course of 4 days, the energy of the whole place. And it wasn't like the first day of it wasn't an anxiety. It was like genuine people getting in their shit. The second day, it lingered pretty heavy. The third day, you started feeling it open. By the 4th day, it was a party out there. I had all these really cool little experiences I could touch on that were like that. But the one I was starting with was I walked out and looked at them horses. And at Onsite, for those who have no clue, y'all have a bunch of rescue horses. And it's really interesting that you've thought out every angle of that property. There's a story all the way down to why you kept the original building there. Because you pull up and it's an old Victorian Savannah style house. And but it's everything else. And then there's cabin, but then there's a really modern kitchen and a modern area. There's a really modern facility. So
I forgot I told you all those stories. You asked for all of them.
For sure. It was a very unique. So I wanted to know. I was like, this is like, what would, I was a little puzzled. And then all the farm, all the way down to like the pig was rescued. And the ducks were rescued ducks that were getting killed at a duck farm or something. It's like everything had a story. And all the horses had a story. And I remember watching those horses. And I remember laying down in that grass. And it was the first time I had laid in grass as an adult.
Wow.
Like as a full-grown adult male. And that hit me in that moment when I was like, dude, I need to just have more moments like this. Like I forgot what it was like to just feel grass on my body. You know what I mean? Just that feeling. Like when you were a kid, you just go lay out in the lawn and just look up at the sky and just wonder. You know what I mean? Like I got to bring that back. And it's funny, I got to have a lot of inner child moments, but did a lot less inner child work than I expected. I thought I was going to go give your 5-year-old self a hug thing. I was kind of reluctant at first.
Sure.
And it turned out that I ended up giving my 5-year-old self a lot of hugs, but it wasn't therapy induced. It was the environment. It was what was happening. It was the freedom. It was the no phone. It was the having to connect. You know what I mean? Sitting on that porch and getting to have those kind of conversations, whether it was with you or I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this. I think I can. I'll let you know if we have to cut it. But my brother was there at the same time.
Right.
We spent every night together. It was like, we still kind of reference it as one of our coolest months we've ever had as a family. You know what I mean? It was, but I left there for sure going, I don't know what else, but I need a farm. I need a place to go rescue a horse too and name it Memphis. You know what I'm saying? And put it over here.
We got a Memphis.
I know you do. I remember Memphis.
Well, I think in a way, we've joked before when we've been on the road somewhere, and you said we've got a traveling group home. That's what you called your tour, traveling group home. And what you were talking about are not the people we attract to the shows, which all of them are, I think, people looking for the same thing we're all looking for, which is a little grace, a little love, second chance, a little confidence. But all of us, from me being a part of it to all of us, have a story. And I think you're wrapping your arms, just like I try to do it on site. How do you curate an environment so that everybody's story gets a chance to breathe, so that people can connect regardless on what they believe and don't believe? They can find commonality. And when commonality exists, we humanize one another. And when people are humanized, humanity just gets better. That's therapy, is when you see the human in another person. You got to do anything else but see the human in another person. I just think you do that really well. And I think I watch you chase it. Like I watch you chase it the way you've chased this transformation of yourself physically and mentally, which has been wildly encouraging and remarkable. It's encouraging millions of people now that are watching it on TV, and they think they know all the parts of it because they see a guy that's like 3 times his size, smiling, beautiful smile, singing, playing stadiums, doing the things. They have no idea about all the little setbacks that are along the way. Nor if they were to analyze my story, I had the same thing. I think the more we can not just start with our highlight reel, because I feel a little bit bad that we hadn't promoted a dang thing that you're doing. And that's usually what you do in these interviews. It's like, here's what you're doing, here's what we're getting ready to do. And there's some exciting stuff coming that I do want at least to talk about at the end here. But more than anything, I want people to see the human in a guy like you, because so many people feel like they know you.
You know how refreshing it is to come on here and not have to talk about, like, not peddling a product? One, I'm in a great place in life. I don't have one to peddle. This is coming out after SummerSlam, so if y'all missed it, go watch the recap, I guess. It's the closest thing to an album I got this year. But it's like, it's so refreshing. That's what I loved about this concept when you first brought it to me. When I was like, I think just, it's a change. We need a change in humanity anyways. And I think this is the best step forward we can take, that you could take. You know, and I'm glad you brought me in. And for people to see, I just want to create more conversations like we're having in general, like human to human conversations, like real one. Like what keeps you up at night? What scares you? Why are you scared? You know what I mean? Are you being a good husband? Are you being a good father? Does that matter to you? You know what I mean?
Part of what you're doing down here right now, I'm super jazzed about, because I love the creative process of music. Music's been a healing agent for my entire story, and I'm lucky to get a behind the scenes look at a lot of people's creative process. Guys like you and other really talented writers and artists will send me songs when they're in process or when they're just off the slate, and nothing inspires me more. But you're literally working on your next record.
Yeah, right
in
now.
the writing part of it.
Early phases.
And what I love is there is so much more to your story to tell that people don't know.
I hope they follow me, because I'm taking us on a ride. I always have been bold when it was time to be bold musically, I thought, and it's time to be bold. So.
Yeah, there's a rest of the story. I've already heard some of it that you guys are going to hear. That I mean, you hear songs like "I'm Not Okay," kind of these anthems that we talked about in the beginning of this interview that can do nothing but encourage you when you're hearing them. I watched that thing grow, and good night, what happened over time. It'll continue to change lives, but there's a whole nother gear of where you go from survival to thriving. And I'm seeing you start to thrive, Bubba, and it's really inspiring. And the fact
I think the art will reflect it.
Yeah.
The music's always met me where
Try
I
not to
was.
give it away, but I know it's going
Exactly. I'll play you some. But the music's, we're going to take a bold swing.
Yeah.
I remember when I cut Save Me, if you listen to my catalog, it was like a wild swing. Like if you were currently a Jelly Roll fan, that was a crazy curveball for me to throw. 5 years later, if you were currently a Jelly Roll fan, I could throw y'all a curveball. You know what I'm saying? For sure.
Yeah. You threw me one when you first told me about the concept. I was like, of course, that makes all the sense in the world. Well, there's other interviews where I'll probably be one to talk a lot more, say a lot more impressive things. But this happened just like our conversations always happen. It was laid back.
Yeah, I think that's where the impressive things come from, man. You know, I think that's where the nuggets are. I think it's in the little stories, man. I was reading this story the other day, and it was the story was leading into problem solving, but it was talking about, do you know how basketball was invented?
Oh.
I think it was a bunch of like rugby or lacrosse players or something were like somewhere in the East Coast, like Boston or somewhere. And they had a winter off, and it was winter, and all these players had never had a winter that didn't know what to do, and they were all inside this building bored. So this guy challenged the 4 coaches to come up with an indoor game to keep everybody pacified. And all 4 coaches came with different ideas. And the one who had the best idea was a guy who said, what if we hung a peach basket up and we tried to throw a ball in it? And they had no real rules at the time, right? And you know, the first game took like 5 hours, and they were going to like go to 5, and it took like 3 hours to go to 5 or something. It was like 4-1. It was like horrible, right? And then as they started getting better though, and they started putting rules in place, the more the ball would go up and get stuck in the peach basket started to become a problem. When you only had a 4-1 score, it didn't really matter when the janitor had to put the ladder and go up there and grab it. But eventually they were like, we got to figure this out. And they sat around, a bunch of grown men, completely puzzled with this problem. And they ended up coming up with, what if we just cut the bottom of the basket out? You know what I'm saying? And the idea of that was, there was an introspective moment. There was identifying a problem. Then there was a moment of, let's sit around and think about this. And then it was rationalizing the most rational way to do it. And it revolutionized what ended up fully being basketball. And this just happened out of the middle of nowhere, just some little old place in the Northeast that they were just trying to figure out the game. But these are the nuggets that changed my life. It was never the real crazy quotes. It was the little stories that you tell me. It was the little ones that always had the hook it was back to Jesus. Jesus was great at that. You know what I mean? Like
making other people shine.
Jesus was great at people like saying the most with the littlest. Like we're worried. He's just like, dude, God feeds the bird. You think he's not going to feed you? Like he took the biggest problem in those dudes' life and just simply said, if God's feeding the birds, man, what do you think he's going to do for us?
Space and presence.
You know, just that was Jesus, the storm's going to rock the boat. No, it's not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, Jesus clearly calmed the storm, but I'd say his sheer faith had a lot to do with it. He wasn't worried about that boat flipping over once. Everybody else was freaking out. They were going to make the boat flip over. He was asleep. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's like Jesus never actually said anything crazy. He just did, and he was present, and he kept it real with people. And it was very short and sweet and kind of rude sometimes, we're going to be honest. You know what I mean? When he walked in that temple, I always tell a story about him flipping the table over, because whenever we try to paint Jesus as like this super...
The saint.
Yeah, like, yo, this dude was a gangster. I had forgotten it. I've been back reading the New Testament, and I haven't read the New Testament in a long time. But since I've been here, when I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I do. And I didn't realize until when you go back and fine-tooth it, he didn't just flip the table over. He walked up to the tables and took all the money, threw it on the ground. So imagine you had a table full of merchandise, and I just walked up and just slapped your shit down. Then I flip your table, and then I grab a whip and drive your animals out, because they had animals they were trying to sell in there. And all I say is, you're making a merchant of my Father's house. I think maybe Jesus said something right then because he knew they needed a quote one day. But I think what he did said enough. You know what I'm saying? I think him flipping the table over and kicking the animals out. I think Jesus was just like, yeah, they're going to quote this one day, so I should just drop a nugget here. But he could have said nothing, and I got the message loud and clear. But that's why I'm blown away when a church puts a Starbucks in it. Maybe we're not reading the same Bible. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. You know what I'm saying? But that's my hot take for the day. But it's just, you know what I'm saying? And I could name 30 of those stories that are in the Bible where I'm like, but yet, most mainstream churches are against this, but they're for this. You know, but Jesus was here with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it always bugged me a little bit that when Christian, and I am one, but when we get hung up on what people say, how they say it, and what they might be representing versus their influence and what they're actually doing with their lives. We don't ever take time to look, because that requires you to look under the hood, not at the car itself. I had basketball, and I had so much on the list I just want to talk about, this little stuff that nobody gets to know, and we'll have time. There's more stuff we're going to do with this format and Human School, humanschool.com. We got some exciting things we're going to roll out in a lot of different areas that are going to support the betterment of humanity, and especially supporting a lot of vulnerable people who don't have the means to get information like this. But you surprised me. We've both been chasing basketball for the last year and a half or 2 years. You've really gotten me back into it in a big way, and it's been amazing and I'm still not great at it. I mean, I was a football, baseball player, but basketball, I've fallen in love with it.
Fine.
And it is helping get us in good shape, which is fantastic. But you and I are kind of the big guys on the court, because we don't have a lot of super tall guys. We got some ballers playing with us, but not a lot of big guys. So needless to say, I would think we're usually down low, but you kept coming to the top of the key. You wanted to play at the top of the key, top of the key, top of the key. And I couldn't figure out why you like it up there. You're not a shooting guard, you're not a point guard. Get down here with me and let's hack around. And but what I realize is what you value more than anything on the entire court is the assist.
Yes.
And that's really what I've seen you value more in life. It's the assist. And for a guy who's talking a lot about Jesus, I think he was the ultimate assist.
He was the ultimate assist, man.
And I watch the way you work. You get up there and you want to see the entire court, and what makes you happier than draining a long three, which you don't make many of those anyway.
Facts. Facts. Big facts.
But that's one more than I do.
Amen. Amen. You got a good midi, though.
I made one, and it was the one time you called me out for not being able to shoot. I mean, it's the proudest moment of my basketball career. He's like, give it to him. Don't guard him.
Don't worry about him. He ain't hit one to miss mine.
The only one I've ever hit. But you teed it up so good. But I think if you keep watching the people and you keep looking for the assists, I think your fans and your friends, which I'm just going to call your community, are going to keep putting wind behind those sails. And they're going to drive you to go use your influence for good. They're going to drive you to take that influence and try to figure out how to be a better friend and a better father. And that's for good. It's all for good. Yeah. And so I'd just say cheers, brother. I'm so happy.
Can I, since we started with a prayer story, can I leave us with one?
Yeah.
My father told me this story, and I've told this story 1,000 times, but I don't think never publicly. Probably you privately too. But it was about prayer one time and the power of prayer. And this was the story he taught me about the power of prayer. He goes, this is so funny. He goes, he had a guy that he was working with in the same office because he subcontracted with another company. And we'll call the guy John. And he was like, John is just a nightmare to work with. It was getting my father mad to the point of wanting to get physical, you know? And he called one of his buddies about it or something. Somebody said, just pray for him. You pray every day, don't you, buddy? And buddy was like, yeah, I pray every day. He said, just pray, start praying for him. So buddy said, you know what, just pray for him. That's what you have to do. So buddy said, I wake up every morning, I start praying. God, John, just God bless John's family. Just give John grace. He said, I go in, good morning, John. And John, hey, you know, he said, that's all right, I'll just keep praying for him. He said, dude, I looked up about 3-4 weeks later. He said, man, John's coming around. He said, so I went back to the boys in the meat cooler And I said, dude, am I tripping? Or is John becoming just an absolute stud of a human? And they said, dude, John's probably the bigger asshole right now than he's ever been ever in his life. What are you talking about? But he said, I don't see it. He said, I'm telling you, that man's changing. And Buddy came back out again 2-3 weeks later and said, I'm telling y'all, I'm getting along with John. Y'all not seeing this? They were like, dude, I'm quitting tomorrow if John's still here. We hate him. My father told me, he said, you know what I realized that day? I don't really know what was happening with John, but I know what God was doing in me.
Come on.
He said, to this day, I'm not sure how much John actually did or didn't change. But the way I perceived John and the way that I reacted to John and the way that I dealt with John and the spirit I brought to John from that day forward, maybe it changed. You know, it's like, he said, that's funny, I was praying for John to change this whole time. And it was my perspective that was off, you know? And it was deep because any other story he could have said, if it would have turned the way we all think it's going to turn, it would have turned out that John was actually getting it. It would have seemed a little unreal, you know? But God doesn't always work in the mythical and the magical. That's what I tell people too. And God also works in the practical. You know what I mean? That prayer had dad. And I thought about when he told the story, when he walked in, what's up, John? Good morning. That's not very dad-like, you know what I'm saying? So that's already you know.
I've got a favorite prayer story too I'll leave you with real quick, which is one of my good buddies, Earl Hightower. I hadn't talked to him in quite some time, makes me want to call him. But he was one of my favorite AA speakers and lives out in LA and just super inspiring, great storyteller, wild experience and wild life, which that's his story to share. But one time I was struggling early on when I was trying to chase my own story and figure some things out. And at that time I was kind of had a strained relationship with God and my faith. I was frustrated with all of it. I'd put it in a box and kind of was having a hard time dealing with it. He asked me about my spiritual life and he said, are you praying any? And I said, man, I just don't have a lot to say right now. And he said, I've been there too. And he said, try saying something. And I said, what do you mean? Because my prayers, the way I learned them, they're all real formal. And I even had you doing it right. Like you have to pray the right way. Until I got in your circle and I was like, whoa, there's a whole nother. But he said, you know what my prayer was at my worst? And he said, it was 2 words. When I woke up in the morning, I looked up and I said, whatever. And when I went to bed at night, I said, enough. It's all I could say. But I kept adding a word, and suddenly the sky started to part. And so I would just say to all of you that are watching this, God may not be your flavor, Christianity may not be your flavor. We're trying to create a circle here at Human School that everybody's got a seat at the table regardless of what you believe. We're going to talk about what we believe because we believe in it and think it can influence you. But if you're at a season where God sees so far removed, where your spirituality seems so far removed, you can wake up and say whatever. And you can go to bed and say enough because you've survived another day, 1 foot in front of the other, and tomorrow's going to be better than yesterday was. It has been for a couple of hacks like us. You got one of the biggest artists in the world, got a guy that's spending a lot of time in mental health. We're both flirting with both industries, but at the end of the day, we're just 2 hacks trying to figure life out. And we do it just like this. It's clumsy. There's no expert here. There's 2 guys banging off the guardrails, having heartfelt conversations, and we want to invite you into them. So welcome to Human School.